All right, we are getting ready to start. We're in like the 60-second countdown. And so as we are waiting for this 60-second countdown to start, I have to ask, when you eat an Oreo cookie, do you take a bite or do you separate the two wafers?
Oh, just
Separate.
dive right in and bite.
Okay, for folks who dive right in and bite, raise your hand. Okay. For folks who say, you're kidding, you got to twist it off and separate them. Yep. Okay.
I'll raise my other hand because that's my wife.
All
But
right.
you've got to turn it counterclockwise. Clockwise doesn't work.
Yeah, I think that's right. You're right, John.
Oh yeah,
Clockwise, it just screws it on tighter and you can't
you
get it
gotta
apart.
do one of those, right? Yeah. All right. Well, my friends, thank you so much for coming. We may have a few more folks trickling in. I know that a number of folks said that they were not able to attend today and they asked if we could please record. And this is your heads up. We are, in fact, recording. So this is for posterity. So everyone make your best for posterity face. Go. Okay, good. Thank you. Welcome. My name's Jackie. If you don't know who I am, hello, nice to meet you. And I am thrilled that our very own Stephanie Roy, DTM, is going to be our training chair for the upcoming 2025-2026 Toastmasters year. Hi, Stephanie.
Hello.
And this is going to be Stephanie's Train the Trainer training. That is a mouthful, T4. I would love to give you an introduction to Stephanie, but if I got it, I don't know where it is. So I'm going to make something up. Stephanie is a DTM. She has previously served as division director for Division A and then for Division D. And she could not get too much of a good thing, which is why she's staying on to continue to serve the district as part of the program quality committee. Thank you so much. And as part of Stephanie's day job, she actually trains trainers for her day job. So now she's going to keep doing it and not get paid. So we are so lucky to have her. And with that, my friends, it is my pleasure to turn this Train the Trainer training over to our one and only Stephanie Ann Roy. Stephanie, please take it away.
Awesome. Happy to. So, like I was saying before, this got changed. So, I might just need a second. This just goes to show that you really want to make sure that you test things beforehand because Zoom is always updating stuff. So, all right. I don't have the view I want, but we're going to roll with it. All right. Yes, Jackie, thank you all. And everyone, thank you all for having me this evening. So we are doing our District 53 Train the Trainer program to this evening. There are a lot of people in here. There's some pretty serious Toastmasters heavy hitters, people that have way more experience than I have. So this is definitely going to be a collaborative conversation. I hope to get lots of different input and ideas, not just from the people who have been around a long time, but also from those of you that are relatively new and remember what it's like to show up to your first officer training, because we are tasked with helping both sides of the spectrum, the Toastmasters like David, who have been around for 35 years, and the Toastmasters like D, if I remember correctly, might be on like 2 or 3 years, if that even. So we've got the full spectrum, and everyone here has experiences that can help us make sure that club officer training, 1.5 years for D. We want to make sure that it's an awesome experience for everyone. So, quick overview of the agenda for this evening. We're going to open, which we just did. We're going to spend about 50 minutes kind of talking about the how of training, so the conceptual part of it, really your mindset, the perspective that you want to come from, and some skill sets that can help you while you're in this role of teacher. Because teaching is different than just communicating. It's another level beyond it. So we're going to talk about how to really be an effective teacher in these upcoming sessions. Then we'll have a quick bio break. Is good for your brain to have a quick environment shift, go get a glass of water, whatever, and then we'll come right back. And then we're going to go into the what. the agendas for this season's session, what we're talking about this year, what we're focusing on, the plan that Jackie has put together, and then we'll close and we'll be all done for the evening. So I hope it's going to be fun and interesting. But first, I need to tell you a story. 3 years ago, I took a trip to Washington, D.C. with my family. We rode the train down, which was pretty cool. And then the first evening there, we did a tour of 10 different monuments. So it was Jefferson, Lincoln, Martin Luther King, you had World War II, Korean War Memorial, the Vietnam War Memorial, all the big ones. It was a bus, one of those open buses, really more of a van, probably sat about 25 people. We got on, we found seats in the back that were up nice and high, and there was a bus driver and a young woman with a microphone. About 3 minutes into this 3-hour tour, we realized it was going to be a very long night. She was training, she was enthusiastic, but she was awkward, her jokes were not funny, and her facts were only somewhat factual. So it was a rough experience. About halfway through, we were coming back from seeing the Jefferson Memorial, walking back to the bus, having white knuckled through the first hour and a half. It had gotten dark, so it was dusky out, and an elderly woman who was a participant on the tour missed a curb and fell, and pretty sure she broke her wrist. I feel horrible for this woman, but her fall was our saving grace. The bus driver suggested that the trainee stay back with this woman and her husband while they waited for the ambulance. He got us all back on the bus and took over as the tour guide. It was like a heavenly light had broken through the dark clouds. He was competent, he was confident, he was funny. It was clear that he knew what he was doing. And just the feeling of relief that came over the entire vehicle, over all of us, was massive. The rest of the tour was so much more enjoyable because we could relax into the learning experience. We could trust that the teacher was sharing factual information. It was fun. It was engaging. We were clearly in the hands of someone who knew what they were doing. So I'm curious from all of you, a quick show of hands, how many of you have been in an experience where you had a trainer or a guide that was like the first woman that I talked about, where they just clearly didn't know? Yeah, it's not a fun experience, right? And then how many people have been in that experience of the second trainer, the bus driver who was clearly the expert? Yes, show of hands if you've had a really awesome training experience. Great. Which one would you prefer, the first one or the second one? The second one, right? Silly question. So our goal is to make sure that our club officers can relax into the club officer experience, the training experience, because remember, the newbies are going to feel very overwhelmed. Many of them are like Dee. It would be reasonable if Dee were becoming an officer for the first time a year and a half into her Toastmasters experience. But she's jumped right into the deep end. So not only has she already been a club officer, she's also jumping in as a trainer. So we want to make sure that we're conscious and aware of those newbies. I mean, I became a club president 6 months into my Toastmasters training. But then we also have people, like we've already pointed out, that have been around a really long time. So we're trying to serve both ends of the spectrum. And a lot of that is going to come through our presentation. So starting out, we're talking about the how, which really means creating engagement, making sure that it's fun and exciting and interesting so that you're captivating attention as you're moving through the material. So let's talk real quick about just the different types of learning experiences that can be created. So first, you've got our y-axis that we're going to be looking at today is the no educational value to a high value of education. And then on the x-axis, we're going from painfully boring to highly engaging. All right. Now, I'm sure you can guess which quadrant we're going to want to end up in. But if we find ourselves in that lower left corner, that's where the trainee, the participant, feels like it was a waste of their time. They got nothing out of it and they were bored all the way through it. We definitely don't want that to happen. If it's very engaging, but there's no educational value, well, now it's just kind of entertainment. So if someone shows up to your session and they're getting a lot of socialization, but they haven't actually learned anything, then they're not going to feel as compelled to come back again or to suggest it to their other veteran Toastmasters. If it's a high educational value, but is on the boring side of the spectrum, now we're in an expert lecture. And this is an easy place to fall into when we're passionate about what we're talking about, when we know a lot about it. It can get really easy to just start fire hosing and oversharing too much information. Where we want to find ourselves is in that high educational value where they feel like they're learning a lot, but it's also very engaging. And that's what we're going to talk about creating this evening is a free experience. Now, free is an acronym that we use in our teaching. And but before we can get into that, I just want to mention we are battling butterflies with this. So when we're teaching kids, we're fighting a lot with all of the little things that happen in their brain, all of the distractions in the room. Well, as adults on Zoom, and I can even see it right now on the screen as I'm looking at my gallery view, the butterflies that we're fighting are all of the digital distractions that happen. So it's the email popping up in the corner. It's all of the other little tasks that maybe you haven't completed for the day. Yeah, whether it's butterflies or squirrels, we're competing against a lot in this digital environment. So we really have to make sure that we're creating a free experience. Now I'm going to pause here for just a moment and I have a quick question for you. Am I pointing at the butterflies? No? Awesome. Good to know. Okay. So what is a free experience? Free is fun, rewarding, engaging, and energizing. That's the experience that we want to create. And honestly, this isn't just for club officer training. This is anytime you're sharing information with anyone, whether it's a speech that you give, a conversation you have with your teenager, fun, rewarding, engaging, and energizing. So fun means that they say consciously or subconsciously, I'm enjoying this. This is cool. This is a fun experience. I'm glad I'm here. Rewarding means they're saying this is beneficial. There's value to this. I know that this was worth my time showing up this evening. Engaging is, I never thought about it that way. Or I hadn't ever thought of that idea before. I need to bring that back to my club. That's going to help my club or my members succeed. And then energizing is I can't wait to start. I can't wait to go. I know what the first action I need to take is, and I'm ready to do it. I feel empowered. So yes, like Jeff said, the best things in life are free, and that's what we're going for with our club officer experience. So this is what you want your participants either saying or feeling as they're moving through. So now I'm going to jump into a little bit of what we talk about when we're teaching other teachers, other content creators, educational content creators. And what we teach if you guys don't know me, I'm a martial artist. So we've taught hundreds of instructors over the years. And this is really how we've codified the learning experience. And it's actually based off of, does anyone know Joseph Campbell's Hero's Journey? Yeah, really great foundation. It's the basis for like almost every movie that you've ever watched. Star Wars fits into this really, really well. But it's the idea of a hero going on a quest. So they start from where they are in the ordinary world. There is a call to adventure. They go out on the quest and then they enter into a special world. And somehow through tests and meeting allies and conquering enemies and moving through an ordeal, facing kind of a challenge where they have to think and grow either their mind or grow physically, that brings them through this learning experience back to their ordinary world, where now they're returning with some kind of special knowledge. And when we have a learning experience like we're doing right now, our goal should be to move the learner, the hero of the story, through an experience where they're taken into a special world, they're given an experience, and then they come out transformed, where now they're different. They feel like they can move on to go to something better, that they can accomplish more, that they've grown. So that's what we're trying to move towards. So again, the way we've codified this is 4 simple parts, and this is how we teach all our martial arts classes as well. This pattern it's really a natural teaching model. If you've done a lot of teaching or training, if you think back on expert teachers, trainers, even speakers, you're going to find that any class you take that's like a good class is going to fall into basically this pattern. So first, your learner is in the ordinary world. We need to bring them into the special world. So there needs to be some kind of guiding principle that moves them forwards. And if you think about any time you're going to take a journey, what's the first thing you need to know? You need to orient on where you are and why this journey is worth going on. So when we're talking about the 4 parts, the first part of any class is the compass. We're giving them some sort of orientation as to why this matters. So like the story that I shared with you was part of a compass setting of paralleling these 2 types of trainers and then making that connection of we don't want to be the first girl. We want to be the guy that was really fun to learn from. And then the next part is getting into the map. This is the core content, the path we're going to take, what we need to know to get to where we're trying to go. But the map isn't really the fun part, right? If you're going to tell your kids that you're going on a trip to Disney World, and then you're like, all right, let's take out the map and study all of the different routes to get there. That's not the fun part. They just want to get to what? To the experience. So that third chunk is the navigation, the actual moving towards, like through the experience. That's the experiential learning. That's where the real deep learning, the transformational learning is going to happen. It's just like sitting in the lecture hall, listening to the professor was not nearly as interesting a learning experience as getting in the lab and dissecting the frog. We want to spend as much time dissecting the frog as possible. And then finally, the last segment of any learning experience should be some sort of transformation, should be something that points forwards, that gives them some kind of next action step so that they leave having grown. They've changed. They go back into their ordinary world. They go back into their club meeting, back into their day-to-day Toastmasters experience, but they now have this new knowledge that they feel confident with to bring them forwards. I love it, Jackie. So just as a quick review, we've got our compass. It's kind of our guiding principle. It's the foundational information that they need to know to make sure that they're going to hear you. So you're setting them up to capture their attention. And then the map is your core curriculum. This is what you want to tell them. This is the information they need to know, because you're not going to drive from District 53 to Disney World without a map. Even if you're using GPS, you're still following a map. So we need that core curriculum, but the drive is not the fun part. It's the experiential learning. It's getting in there and dissecting the frog, even if Donna's not super excited about it. It was kind of gross. I'm glad those days are past me. And then finally, transformation is the actionable change. So as our club officers are leaving your session, it should end on what they're going to do next, how they can take what they just learned and move forwards with it, so they don't just have this chunk of information of just like, oh, that was a great book, but I don't know what I'm going to do with it. You know, like that was a fun conversation, but Now what? Sometimes you get so many ideas in these club officer trainings, you don't know what to do next. So we want to make sure that we give them something to keep them moving forwards. So are there any questions on any of this at all? Anything? Keep rolling forwards. Cool. There's going to be lots of time for you guys to share. So now the challenge with this format, and again, many things out there fall into this format just under different names. Did I see a hand or are we good?
No, I think that was someone's hand from previously when we raised hands.
Okay. Cool. Awesome. All right. So a lot of experts and people who are passionate about what they're sharing get stuck in the map. And this is where you get the fire hose of information. It's all right, VPE is a really big role, and you need to know about pathways, and you need to be intimately aware with pathways. But then you also need to know how to make sure you're printing diplomas. And oh, did you know in the store that you can print out these pins? Or maybe you could just get ribbons for people. And oh, do you have a chart in your meeting where you're keeping track? Do you do stars? There's so many things that we can talk about that it's very easy to overload people. So, sorry, Jackie, didn't mean to call you out. So if you get too excited about your expert knowledge, you have the danger of falling into that upper left hand. See, I can't see myself like I used to when I did that. The upper left-hand corner, there we go, where you end up in the expert lecture. And there's a whole bunch of information that gets spewed in their direction. While they're in it, they may feel like, oh, wow, I'm getting so much. I'm learning so much. But then they leave and it's like, what just happened? Has anyone ever had that experience before? Where you almost come out of the learning experience? Yes, John's hand is up very high. You almost come out of the learning experience in a daze because there was just too much that came at you all at once. So the navigation is really where the most transformational learning is going to happen, making sure that they're engaging and interacting with each other, with the information. They're getting to practice and play with it. Okay? And I think we can all be on board with this in concept. Like, everyone's like, yeah, of course, dissecting the frog is cooler than the lecture. But then someone hands us a microphone and we forget to stop talking. So we want to make sure that we're going in with some kind of plan so that we're ready. Even if the room is quiet, we're ready to draw them out and create that experience for them. So now, without fire hosing you all, the system that we created, the momentum teaching system that parallels our momentum learning system, it actually has 8 different principles, but the 3 pillars are the ones that we're going to talk about today. And it's all built on the foundation of practice and play. That's the 8th principle. That's the experiential learning. In the end, we're all just practicing and playing. We're figuring out as we go. I mean, I prepared for this. I was ready for it. And also, some things are going to go well, some things aren't. I'm going to learn from it and it'll be better next time. So we want to always kind of have that idea of this is fun. We're here because we like Toastmasters. We're here because we enjoy this. So let's make sure it stays fun and interesting. So I'm going to actually stop sharing and then we're going to have some conversations about being an awakened guide, conversational learning, and creating focused attention. So any questions or comments before we jump in? No, we ready? All right. So the first pillar that we're going to talk about is being an awakened guide. This is a term that we use instead of instructor or, trainer's not bad, teacher's pretty good, but instead of having that kind of top-down perspective, remember, we're the mentor, we're the Obi-Wan taking our little Padawans on a quest here. We're guiding them through a journey, but they are the hero of the story. So we want to come from a learner-centric place of we're just a guide. So we need to be aware of their needs, their challenges and what types of things are going to be interesting and helpful to them as we take a walk down the trail. So now I'm going to ask you guys, what are the needs of our club officers as they show up to club officer training?
There are no wrong answers.
Yeah, I will happily wait until someone unmutes. What do we got?
What did I get myself into?
I don't know if that's a need, but that's definitely a question that they have. They need an answer to that question, right? So we want to make sure that we're doing things that are going to help calm that fear. All right. So I'm seeing hands go up.
They're scared to death.
They're scared. Yep. D.
I think it's for them to gain knowledge, for them to have an idea of what, they have to do as an officer.
Awesome. Yes, perfect. And Norm.
Yeah, it was mentioned there are no wrong answers. There's also no wrong questions.
Absolutely. Yes. Anna.
When new officers are voluntold into a role sometimes, they come to this meeting without knowing anything about the role, and they are almost like a deer in the headlights. And I say deer in the headlights, I was one. So here you have it.
Yeah, and underneath that, there may be a little bit of reluctance. That whole what did I get myself into? Maybe it was what did I just say yes to because I'm already busy. So now what am I adding on to this? Dee, do you have another one?
I was gonna say, where do I start? I think is a big one.
Yes. Yeah, and we want to remember so something that we say a lot when we're teaching martial arts classes is that there's always another class. Now, obviously we know there's so much more training that we could do other than the 2 sessions a year, but we do want to remember they have an area director, they have division directors, they have all kinds of support in the district. So our goal, what's the purpose of a first meeting? To get a second meeting, right? So our goal is to give them a starting point and then encourage them to continue the learning, to come to the next class, whether it's Googling Toastmasters or reaching out to their area director, whatever it's going to be. Jeff?
Yeah, you actually kind of answered the other usually unspoken question, which is great. This got me off to a good start, but where do I go for more information? It's not just people, but other sources too.
Yes, absolutely. All right, Donna, one more on this topic.
From the other perspective, is this again?
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Yeah. I see a lot of people in the room laughing. Yeah. John, go ahead.
Yeah. John, we just really, what you said resonated about, this again. I think that for the seasoned officers, those who've been taking officer roles for a number of years, that's incredibly valid. It's like, oh, gotta get my ticket punched. For those coming in from the start, first opportunity, and you hit on it, Stephanie, something about getting them connected to support and having them not have the feeling that they got to make this up as they go along. Yes, they get to develop, they get to create. Sorry, I have 2 geriatric Staffordshire Terriers who are joining in from the other room.
No problem.
That's why I've been on mute. But anyway, is to actually provide them with that connection, up to the point of where people who don't feel connected to the greater community will generally hide out. And it's much harder to pull them out of a hiding place than it is to show them that there's a really great community out here. So I went on a little bit long with that, but you get the idea.
Perfect. No, that was awesome. And I think in this, we covered their needs and also their challenges at the same time. I think you guys really hit on each of them. So as you're preparing for whatever sessions you agree to help facilitate, keep those things in mind. So, and again, we are trying to juggle a lot here where we've got the first timers who are saying, oh my gosh. And then you've got the veterans that have been around a long time that are saying, oh my gosh, I don't want to do this again. So, but we've got them there. So we want to make sure that it's interesting. And along this idea of an awakened guide, since it kind of dovetails into a lot of the things you guys said, thinking from this perspective, one of the things we are going to do this year is on July 7th, there's going to be a first time club officer session. It doesn't officially count towards their 3 hours of training, but hopefully they're not thinking about just checking the box on 3 hours of training. If they're a brand new officer, they're probably not even thinking in terms of that kind of, mindset. So it's going to be a session that's designed to go over like, what is DCP? What is CSP? What is MOT? What are all these crazy acronyms? What is my role? What did I just sign up for? So it's going to be kind of a nice handheld introduction to some of the really foundational stuff that goes into being a club officer. My hope is that we get a good group. And then Jackie, I'll say it here in front of everybody. I'm willing to do it more than once if it's going to be helpful for people. But the idea would be hopefully your newbies will show up to your session with some of that baseline covered, which will allow you to like jump in at least a little deeper, like not stay in the 3-foot area. Maybe you can't go all the way to 10 feet, but you can kind of paddle around in the 6-foot area of the pool, and that'll give a little more space for your veterans to feel engaged as well. So that's going to be coming up. Feel free to help spread the word on that. And then the other thing from the Awaken Guide perspective, kind of touched on it a little bit, but what do we all take for granted as experienced Toastmasters? This is a good thing to think about, especially, and even present it to your club officers as a question to consider. I had a mentorship pod. I had 2 people that I was mentoring, and I was kind of, drawing out questions and just getting an idea of where they were at. And one of the things that they said, both of them were very intimidated and nervous about the whole like Madam Toastmaster, Madam General Evaluator, that whole thing. And honestly, in my club, we say that when we forget who the Toastmaster was and we need to buy ourselves a few seconds. So there's this formality that was really intimidating to a brand new member that we were taking for granted. So from the club officer perspective, is if we're being an Awakened Guide, what are we taking for granted about our experienced officers and our inexperienced officers, our brand new officers? What are we assuming that we know, or where they're coming from that we should check in on? So just really quick, is there anything in particular that you guys can think of that can be like shop talk that throws people off, or resources that they don't know exist? Anything come to mind? Yeah,
I would
Deb.
say for the VPE session is probably the one that may be a little bit more challenging with your veteran officers if they have not been doing pathways off of the new system. That may be a challenge because it's where they're going, they might be kind of resistant to, doing pathways. And then it's where we don't do that in our club. And that end up, you have the newer people coming in. That may end up being where a challenge of, you having to kind of balance. You got new people and you have veterans, and trying to, kind of soothe the waters.
Yes. No, 100%. Yeah. So something that we definitely want to make sure we're not taking for granted is that everyone is on board with pathways and feeling positive about it. Unfortunately, I think we're getting closer. I think that we're finally starting to break through. It's, anytime you're in conversation with anyone about pathways, especially if they're a veteran, remind them that the vast majority of Toastmasters nowadays are post pathways, and many more and more every day are post update. So we're beyond the old base camp. We're beyond the transition. So we want to make sure we're being as positive as possible. Anything else jump to mind in terms of, yeah, John?
Something to be careful of, especially for folks who are just maybe taking on their first officer role or just starting their journey, is be really careful about the comfort that we all tend to have in terms of either abbreviations, jargon, or acronyms, because what will they will cause, my experience, they will cause confusion. Folks aren't going to want to expose themselves by asking, what in the world is a blah, 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 blah. And then if they don't know what that is, that just leads to the opportunity for a lot of mischief. So be mindful of that. It sounds pedantic when we say, I don't know, Toastmasters International out loud, but TI, at least initially, isn't going to mean a thing to somebody who is just first dipping their toe into the water.
Yes, no, that's one that I've recently, like I had an experience where I realized that, I said TI and someone that I thought would know had no idea what that meant. I still can't tell you what TLI stands for. I don't know what the T stands for. But we're going to talk about that in a little bit. All right, anything else? Oh yeah, D53, Jackie pointed out, instead of District 53, the number of people that are like experienced Toastmasters that I've talked to that are still confused between district and division. It means something to all of us, but to a lot of people, it's just two words that start with DI that sound like they're interchangeable. So even just that leveling can throw people off. And just, I'll throw it out there as someone that's involved in the district a lot and doing a lot of teaching type stuff. I do have backgrounds that I keep, I'm like mirrored or something, ready to pop up because the visuals really help people. So if you're going to be in club officer training a lot, having, something that you're just being ready with those little things like the hierarchy so that you can explain it, or the parts of a meeting, just having these little things, the frequently asked questions ready to go in a visual format. Having these has been really helpful in a lot of different conversations. I am surprised how often I bring them up, when I'm going through all the different officer role sessions. All right, so anything else on any of those topics? Jackie. Oh, and then I see you, Sharon. I saw Jackie's hand first, though.
Yeah, something that I kind of learned the hard way is to keep in mind people process differently. And just because someone might be sitting there like this, that doesn't mean that they're zoning out or not paying attention. Sometimes people process by turning inward and thinking it through. Not everybody is going to be engaging and raising their hands and talking, and it's a reminder to myself to not assume that someone's not paying attention if they're not engaging the way that I think that they should.
Yes, yeah, resting Zoom face is a real thing. Also, eyes darting around a screen could be somebody taking notes or potentially trying to look something up on another screen.
Exactly, multiple screens.
Yep. Yeah, and it's the digital environment. I think it's even harder to tell than in the real environment. And man, we could do a whole 8-hour day on all of this kind of teaching stuff. It gets really interesting. But I will throw out there too in relation to what Jackie said, as you're preparing your presentations, remember people have different, we tend not to use the word learning styles. We like to say learning gateways because we all learn best when things are visual, audible, and kinesthetic. There's some kind of interaction with it. It's not like, oh, I'm a visual learner, so I have to see it. It's all three of them working together are what help your brain absorb the information. It's just we often have a gateway that's going to help. Like I personally, I need to see the information, but then in the end, I have to like touch it and play with it and make a spreadsheet or design a curriculum or something before I really get it. So it's just the gateway. If I only get it audibly, it's gonna like, phew. So we want to make sure when you're creating the slides, just text is not gonna connect with everyone. If you can bring in some visuals, even if they're simple, Canva is real easy to use. It doesn't have to be fancy. Just any kind of visual can really help engage your learner. Sharon, you were first, and then David.
I just wanted to say one of the things that I think flusters people when they come to these trainings is they get dumped with a ton of information. Then they go onto the website and they can't find anything. And we really haven't helped point them to where they need to be. And also to realize that just because you've attended training does not mean you know what you're going to do, because training is the tip of the iceberg. It's applying it. And the one thing I would like to see is more awareness of where can we go to get help if I don't know what to do, which we don't. I mean, we say area directors, but we don't even always have area directors that are in a position to be able to help club officers as well.
Yes, no, 100%. And my like short response to that is I always find a time in every club officer to say Google's your best friend. Like, you want to run an open house, Toastmasters open house, and you're going to find TI information, and then you're also going to find what other districts have put together for people's DTM projects, ideas they've come up with. So Google is sometimes the fastest route, and I think that sharing that, because the site can be very confusing. So if they're trying to go to TI like a library, it can be hard to find what you're looking for. Google can just sometimes find it faster. David.
Well, my first initial thing was, and when I have trainees in front of me, because I do training as well, that nowadays eye contact is, people are taking notes on their phones, and you've got to realize that we have a diverse number of generations here. And while I wouldn't do that because I wouldn't be able to figure it out, but I think that people do take notes differently, and this is more in person. I know we're having at least one in person, but I think having that feedback, when you give a presentation, even, I gave my presentation at the conference and people they were taking notes, but there are people that take out their tablet or whatever, and you think they're not there. I mean, the old thing I would do is walk over to them and ask them a question because you don't think they're paying attention, but that's not the case anymore. I also want to dovetail what Sharon said. I think that no matter whether we fire hose it or not, at the end of 50 minutes or at the end of 3 hours, people are leaking out of their ears. So I would encourage, and this is something Jackie can do, but I would encourage everyone as a trainer to also do a small follow-up. Every session I've ever done, I follow up with links and stuff, because they're not going to get it all. It's not just reading a slide deck or getting that, but things that can actually tangibly find. Because whether they're new or not, I mean, no matter how many times I do a role, I always get something out of training. So going back, I never say this again, but I always find some nugget that the instructor will send, or something I never heard of. And it's like getting a different thing at a meeting and finding out, oh, that's a cool way of doing that someone did for, I don't know, journal evaluator or whatever. But I think it comes down to make sure that we have follow-up. Our session doesn't end when it ends that night. We need to make sure that we give them the resources. Thanks, Steph.
Awesome. Perfect. All right. So I think we covered, I think we covered that idea of being an awakened guide. So that second pillar that we talked about was conversational learning. And this is really about creating a dialogue and kind of getting that think tank energy. And I think that what David was just talking about kind of goes into this, and that, the emphasis on the experiential learning, the navigation part of it, making sure, like we're doing right now, where we're having a conversation, as you're drawing people out, you're going to get clues as to whether or not people are listening. There are sometimes in a class where you've got the kid that just is off wherever they are, and then you ask them a question and they will repeat back everything that you just said, or just do the whole form, the whole karate technique, that you were teaching, and you thought that they were off in La La Land on Neptune or something, but they were right with you the whole time. They're just a fidgety kid, so we want to, if we find more and more ways to draw people out, it's going to help even just for you to feel validated, like, oh, they're listening to me, like, oh, they're interested, oh, this is worth engaging with, so you're going to get that feedback the more you encourage the conversation. So couple of quick questions for the conversational learning. How can we increase their comfort level through your delivery? So now we're talking very Toastmastery with the presentation. So if you're trying to create that engaged conversational dialogue learning, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they're talking back to you, but they're engaging, they're writing in chat, they're, somehow doing something with what you've said. What can we do to help encourage that? Jackie?
Something that Darren LaCroix and Mark Brown like to talk about is pace elements, where every 4 minutes we kind of change our style. So maybe ask a question like show of hands or something in chat, or have someone else tag team in to, change who's talking. So by changing it up, that's one way to help our audiences stay engaged.
Excellent. Yes. Yeah. So some sort of kinesthetic or verbal response that you're eliciting from them, whether it's typing on a keyboard, raising a hand. Love it. John?
One thing to raise a hand is something else to find the mute button. Yeah. So I think that in a training situation, when there is a barrier, no matter we're either across the table where there's a gulf between where the audience chairs end and the speaking area starts, whatever it is, there's always a gulf, artificial or otherwise. So a little bit of I won't call it self abasement, but certainly a little self disclosure. I'm here with you, and my goal is to create an environment where we actually gain some knowledge, gain some abilities, gain some skills, bring something to our clubs that will enhance the enjoyment of our members, create that collaborative atmosphere right from the get, and for me at least, avoid the appearance of, I've got this all down, and if you stay close to me, catch on my coattails, you might learn too, because that just will set folks off. It has them feel as though that they're perhaps being supplicants of some sort, or that they're lesser. I don't know. But I think that a collaboration is much better. I would much rather have a bunch of virtual hands go up when I go to make a point to either true me up or to, take another cut at the subject matter and get deeper into it. So.
Yeah, awesome. No, I love that. It's, and part of that is that I really keyed in on with what you were talking about was coming from that place of like connection. Because if we do come in as like the know-it-all figurehead, I have all the answers, and when you ask a question, it feels more like there's going to be a gotcha moment, like there's one right answer, and people aren't sure how they're supposed to answer. They're not sure. They're afraid to step in there and raise their voice. If we ask questions that are a little bit more gonna kind of be almost empathetic, so it's like say you're stepping into an Uber, and you get in the back seat and you're like, what do you hate about your job? That the person's probably not gonna really engage with that question. That's a weird question to ask. But if you're like, oh, I'm feeling really tired today, just kind of expressing maybe some mutual energy, or just say, I heard that, being an Uber driver is kind of exhausting. How do you feel about it? And now you're creating space for curiosity. You're having a little bit of empathy. So that would be like, going into that VPE session and saying, I've heard that some VPEs have been having a hard time understanding the new Basecamp manager. It took me a little while to figure out at first. We're going to go through it. If you guys have any questions, I'd like to share with you some of the things that I've figured out from stumbling around. Rather than saying, like, you guys all know where Basecamp manager is. You've checked it, right? Do you know what it is? Where do you find this? And now they have to go in and try to figure out. It feels more like a pop quiz rather than, in an engaging conversation where you've been where they are and you're that awakened guide just a little bit farther down the path. That's how we kind of pace lead and draw them in. And then one more question on this topic. How can we set ourselves up for success in terms of having an engaging conversation? What are some things that you can do to encourage engagement right from the outset? Let the silence fill the room.
Ask questions.
Ask questions. Yeah. And there are times, if the room's not too big, I'll do the introduction thing just to make people come off video, put their videos on. And I don't know about you guys. Anyone ever talk to a room full of blank squares? I had a pathways session, not for District 53. It was for 42. I had a dozen people. Every single one of them had their camera off. It was awful. And I tried so hard to get them to turn their cameras on because it's really hard to talk to the computer screen. So asking questions is going to help draw them out. Be willing to sit in the silence like I just did, and I'm about to do again. What else? Patty.
I'm trying to get my camera on. We'll let it go. So I think you said it from the beginning, Stephanie. You have to greet them the minute they walk in the room. You have to get to the room early, and you have to greet them as they come in, because if you show energy and enthusiasm as they're coming in and introduce, even if they don't have the cameras on, and hi Jim, hi Paul, hi everybody, you're giving them that open and welcome feeling to begin with. And that's really important, that recognition. It's like, oh, she really wants me here. She really appreciates that I'm here. So I think it's important that it starts from the minute they enter the room.
Absolutely. And another thing you keyed on that I think is great for, increasing their comfort level and their engagement as they go through is that enthusiasm. Like, be excited to be here. Have a smile on your face. We teach our instructors to smile. I mean, especially working with kids. Kids wander around all day staring at adults' knees, So when we get down on their level and we're saying hi with a smile, and I mean, how many of y'all go through your whole workday and don't see a single smile on anybody in the office? Yeah, Jackie. Yeah, it can be exhausting. So, now you show up to a meeting with Jackie and I and you get bombarded with all of this energy. If you're having a bad day, you might want to punch a hole in the wall. But, for the most part, bringing energy and enthusiasm, however it shows up for you, but just bringing that passion, like let people know you're excited. Like I really like the VPE role. I'm glad we're here today. I'm glad you joined me. Let's dive in. Let's talk about it. So bringing the energy and enthusiasm to the conversation. And then as we're getting Jackie, go ahead.
And something else is could always ask a question that has nothing to do with Toastmasters. Just, hey, how are you doing today? Or, just kind of kicking it off, just remembering that we're all people and not everything has to be Toastmasters. I said it out loud.
Yeah, well, that's that building rapport, right? That's a huge part. That is Toastmasters. It's networking and connection and communication. Sharon.
Jackie, you just made me think of level 2 communication style, taking into account that your style could be different than most of the people in the class. So you need to make sure you are giving your presentation in all modes so that everyone is learning. Thank you. You reminded me of that, Jackie. Thank you.
Awesome. Very cool. All right. So we've got our conversational learning, which also means it interplays with that Awaken Guide where you're listening to your audience, to your class, to your learners. I did a president's breakout session for D42 like 4 days ago. I don't know. It's all blurring together. But I walked in the room. I did the introduction thing, and they all had experience as officers. Half of them had been presidents at least once before. The other half had a couple of years of other officer roles under their belts. So I was ready to say, what is DCP, and talk about moments of truth. They'd all done it before. So I had to pivot what I was planning on using the time to do and be ready. I needed to listen to what they were telling me and let it be a conversation rather than just being a monologue and telling them stuff we already know, which we've already talked a lot about. So that's the other piece of the dialogue, the conversational learning that you're creating. And then finally, focused attention, which I'm gonna kind of breeze through a little bit because we're got to get to our break time so we can get into the second half. But this one is a key one. And the best example I can give for this, because kids are always such great examples of everything. When we first started a 3-year-old program, we have a decent sized dojo space. It is fascinating. You put a kid, 10 or under, sometimes even older, in a large room. First thing they do, run. Especially a 3-year-old. They just run because there's so much space. So we created like little sections and we had little drills set up. Learned really, really quick what equipment created focused attention and what distracted. Balls could not be left out. A 3-year-old sees a ball and it's game over. So as we're setting up our session, as we're planning the questions that we're going to ask, what we want to talk about, we want to think about what's going to help create an environment that inspires focused attention, and how can we pre-frame and plan for challenges in advance. So if you go into the Toastmasters training materials and look at the train the trainer information, there is actually a very large chunk that basically mimics your level 4 project dealing with difficult audiences or something to that effect. And it talks about the talker, the interrupter, the silent one, all of those different people that it's really challenging to deal with. Over the years, the thing that I found is that's best is just cut it off before it can even start. So the timing cards that we use in Toastmasters, if you get in your room and you see the talker, the one that can just go off and won't stop and is really hard to interrupt, then you can pre-frame your group that, we're going to use the timing card. So I'm going to ask you guys some questions, essentially, don't look at my mess, table topics questions, and then I'm going to time you just like we do. Everybody already knows what those timing cards mean. I have used these timing cards professionally to have a successful meeting just with my team. Everybody's been playing red light, green light since they were 4 years old. So everybody understands the stoplight. And then also just, again, the questions, you're going to engage the silent type. Feel free to call people out. Ask for some things to be put in chat and some things to be, get a verbal response from. So if you're in the VPE room and you're asking about what people's challenges are with pathways so you can help them, have them answer in the chat. Don't give them the mic. They won't stop. Okay, so if you get, that crotchety old timer that just really misses the books, we can cut it off by talking about the challenges in the chat and then talk about solutions verbally. So just be careful who you're giving the mic to and have some respectful, predetermined way that you can, take the mic back if you need to. And then the one other thing I'll say just in creating that focused attention is, having tools to be ready, having questions to be ready to engage the conversation, like that president's room that I was just talking about. I had to be ready with some backup ideas of things to talk about and keep the conversation going for an hour, because they were all set on my first 30 minutes. So I had to be ready with a little bit more that would still be valuable to them. So we've gotten through all 3 of them. So your transformation that I'm going to offer some things to think about, and then Jackie, I promise I'm stopping. Are as you're thinking through your presentations, you can kind of think of, the 3 treasures here: mind, body, spirit. So what are they going to walk away with? Like physically, resources, links, whatever it is, notes, takeaways that they're going to have. What do you want them to have learned? What's the most important thing? You can fire hose them with a ton of stuff and they'll learn nothing. But if there's one thing that they're going to take away from them, what is it that you want them to cognitively walk away with? And then how do you want them to feel? Do you want them to feel excited? Do you want them to feel focused? Do you want to feel empowered? And think that through before going into it so you can set up your presentation and make sure that, mind, body, spirit, you've hit all 3 treasures. They're emotionally connected, they're cognitively connected, and then they have the tools to go forth and do their role. All right. So that's the first little bit. So now we'll take a quick bio break and then we're going to dive into the fun, meaty stuff.
Now, before we kick off our second half of Train the Trainer training, since we were talking about pets, we're going to do a show of hands. How many folks are dog people versus cat people versus, are you kidding? Dog versus cats? Give me something else. So dog people, raise your hands. Okay. All right. David, I think you're holding out. Oh, nope. I see more dog people. Okay, there we go. Thank you. Cat people, show your hands.
Only if they're
Feline
well cooked.
overlords. Okay. Yep. All right. And finally, are you kidding? Dogs, cats. What about all the other things, or those of us who don't really care? All right. Thank you very much for playing. With that, DTM, Stephanie Ann Roy, it's back to you.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm sure we'll have a few more people still trickling in and popping onto the videos again. So this second part is going to be the nuts and bolts part. So the first part was all like, yay, this is who we want to be, and we're going to smile, and it's going to be fun. And now we're going to talk about all the like nitty-gritty details, like scheduling and what are the sessions, and kind of getting into a little bit more of that. I think Jeff is staking his claim as a cat person. All right. So, first thing I'm going to say from a nuts and bolts perspective is as you're looking at what sessions you're going to take on, I encourage you to look at your path in Basecamp and see what projects you might be able to fill by presenting in your breakout session. A lot of the even if you're doing like we talked about where you're setting things up, like you're just kind of setting the tone with a bit of a compass, you're giving a little bit of information for the map, the core curriculum, and then you're doing mostly conversation. Toastmasters speeches are usually 5 to 7 minutes. You could get an evaluator that just comes in and, hey, if you're doing the president's room twice and you've just started a new path, do your level 1 project, the evaluation and feedback one, and then get some feedback from the first time, do better the next time. Jackie.
Yeah, I really want to emphasize the point that Stephanie just made. I believe it was our very own Andrew Watt who used to say, please don't speak for free. And you are giving your time to teach, and thank you for that. And yes, let's align you with the Pathways Project. You don't need to have someone give you a verbal evaluation, though that would be ideal. All they have to do is give you a written evaluation. Any of us who are not going to be teaching, like I'm not serving as a club officer, I will happily do an evaluation like I'm doing an evaluation for Stephanie for today. I will happily do that for anyone. I just need to know when. Be sure to ask people.
Awesome. Also, surprise, you're on my HPL team. Ha ha ha. So I'm using this whole role, this whole club officer season to complete my HPL project as well. And I'm sure that there is space in there if you have some sort of team-based project that you're looking to complete. I'm sure we can find some way to work you into the experience. So you might get an email from me with a 360 at some point in the next couple months. All right, so now we're going to talk about all those little details. But first, we need to set our compass a little bit, remind ourselves what the goals of these sessions are, and that's what do we want them to leave saying. Now, before I say just a couple more things on that, John, are you still having an opinion on cats and dogs, or did you have some input that you wanted to offer? I think based on the face, I'm thinking cats and dogs.
It's got a stuck hand. I'm definitely a dog guy, but my hand's stuck up. My bad.
No problem. I just wanted to double check in case you had something. Your wisdom is welcome. So our goals, we pretty much already talked about it, but we want people to leave saying, this was helpful. This was worth my time. I'm glad I showed up, especially all those veterans. And I can't wait for the fall training. I can't wait to get started. That's the kind of energy as you're thinking about how you're going to set up your slides, the conversations that you're going to have. It's all to create that feeling, that reaction of like, yes, let's go. I'm glad I'm here. I'm ready for what's next. Jeff.
Thanks, Stephanie. Jim Alt actually raised a valid question. I don't know whether he was intending that to be serious or not. Like which project? Well, if you think about it, there may be people here today that haven't really approached this yet. So I'll ask the question in a different way. How did you determine which project to use for your session today?
What's the next one? No. So looking at the 3 pathways that I have going, a lot of them are stuck on team projects right now, and I have firmly committed one of them is going to be to developing like a keynote for outside Toastmasters. So the preparing to speak professionally is a really good one. But also I've done some massaging. I gave a keynote speech at a club in District 42 virtually, and it was like an hour-long thing. So I actually did an icebreaker because they'd never met me before. I just flipped up a slide that's like, I'm switching. And then I did, I don't even remember what the project was, but it was a longer project. And I completed 2 speech projects in one. I had 2 different evaluators that both evaluated me in that meeting. But so now you talk to your resident, whoever in your club is a pathways expert, and you can massage and just because it says 5 to 7 minutes doesn't mean you can't speak for 20 if that's the setting.
Exactly.
Yeah. Jackie?
Yeah, and building off of that, I really would love to encourage folks. It doesn't have to be the letter of the law with the Pathways project. It's the purpose of the project. You absolutely want to stay in line with the project purpose. And then please use that to align it to your situation. It could be as simple as I think it's a level 3 where you're presenting it's level 4. It's manage an online meeting. Worst case, if you can't find anything else, I promise if you're doing an online COT, you're managing an online meeting. So there is a Pathways project that can align with the session that you're teaching. I just want to encourage you, be creative. It's okay to color outside of the lines. And if you have any questions about it, hit me up. I'd be happy to brainstorm with you to help you think about what project you can use. Thanks, Stephanie.
Awesome. All right. So now let's dive into the map of this one, which is the plan, the schedule, the sessions. Jackie, feel free at any point to jump in and interject here. So as you can see, this is a draft. It's pretty fully fleshed out, I think, right, Jackie?
Yeah, it's definitely getting there.
yeah. So I think draft is there just because there may be some minor changes. But 97.3% of this is pretty much the way it's going to be. So to start, just like we've been doing the last couple times, there's going to be a kickoff online COT session, and then a last chance session. So July 14th and August 28th are 2 spots you want to get on your calendar. And again, at the end of this, you're going to have the opportunity to let us know when you're available. So that's coming. So those are the first and the last. Everything else comes in between. There is going to be a session that is kind of more oriented towards our corporate clubs. So those are going to be at noon over the span of 3 days. The goal, a lot of times our corporate clubs, it's just like, I do this at work, I don't do it at home. So they need that kind of midday lunchtime thing to get it into their workday. Jackie.
And yes, and I want to clarify, it's not limited to corporate clubs. It's open to anybody, including, by the way, folks who are not incoming club officers, right? So the 3 corporate branded, if you will, trainings, they're open to everybody. They're called corporate because they're during the workday.
Yes. And you do want to check with every time, it's really good especially if you're in your breakout room and you have the opportunity, find out how much experience people have early on and find out whether they're community or corporate early on. I had a really long, awesome conversation with someone coming in as a VP PR. We talked for maybe 15 minutes. I was kind of giving her a crash course, all of these different things. And then 15 minutes in, I found out she was in a corporate club. And I was like, what? Scratch half of that, because it's different when you're in a corporate club. Just your modes, your media of, reaching out to people is going to be different. So that information is really helpful. And the more you know where your group is tailored, you can lean a little in one direction or the other. But if nothing else, make sure our corporate people feel heard. Especially as Division A director, there were a lot of corporate clubs, and the feedback I got a lot from club officers was that the corporate clubs did not feel like it was helpful. So make sure that you're speaking to them, you're acknowledging them, you're recognizing that it's different and it's also the same, but we have to pace lead them to the understanding that they just have to tweak the ideas a little bit. Patty, then Dee.
All right, so I have a couple questions. And I'm telling you this all from experience with corporate clubs. First of all, if you're calling it a corporate COT, then you need to definitely gear it towards corporate. If you want it as just an afternoon session, so you're getting corporate people, do not use the word corporate.
That's easy to fix. Thank you.
Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing too is, from again experience, if you want to get the corporate people, we had more success in the last couple of years when I was in office having a late afternoon session, like a 4 to 6:30 or 3:30, whatever, than we did in the lunchtime sessions. Just so you know. It almost was doubled, if not tripled, in the afternoon session than it was during the lunch session.
Good to know.
I'm just letting you know, because you're going to require them to attend all 3 sessions. What happens if they only attend 1 or attend 2? And I know for Norm, it's a nightmare. So I just wanted to let you know, this is all coming from experience, because anybody who knows, this is one of my big pet peeves, is that we don't do enough for the corporate clubs, and we have a big corporate a part of this district. So
yeah, thank you.
I just wanted to that's just my input.
Yeah, no, that we 100% want to hear that kind of stuff. So here's what I'm going to recommend moving forward. We're going to kind of go through this whole thing, and I would love if you all could be taking notes on things like that, because when we get to the navigation portion, part of what I'm going to be asking is we have so many past district directors, we have a past international director. There's a lot of wisdom in this room. So we are absolutely going to be looking for some insights and thoughts from you all. So definitely take notes. We may be able to address it in this meeting. We may make a note of it or say, that's really cool, email it to me. And then we'll see what we can do and what we can pivot. Jackie, did you want to add anything to that?
Nope, that was a perfect way to sum it up.
Awesome. All right, cool. So we've got that that session that's designed, and I'm biting my tongue poorly. I think it'd be awesome to have a corporate one too. Like, that's legit corporate. But we'll see what we could do. So then from there, obviously 3 sessions is not enough. So our division directors are all going to be tasked with also holding COT. As we get, they're still figuring out what the heck they're doing. So those dates will be coming. We will keep you all informed so that you can be a part of it. We'll be calling on you. You may hear from me. You may hear from the division directors directly. It's kind of going to depend on how this is their opportunity to practice leadership. So if they want to do the full event organization, we will supervise and make sure everything happens. But we're going to, how involved we are is going to depend on how comfortable they are and what pathways project they're working on.
Right, because leadership is situational, right?
Yeah.
So it's different for everybody.
Exactly. All right, and then the real fun one is we are going to do an in-person TLI. I'm sure we'll talk about this plenty. Yay! So it's going to be at Manchester Church of Christ, which I believe is confirmed, right, Jackie?
It is confirmed.
It is confirmed, and it is very firmly limited to 80 people, including the trainers. So if we just said in-person club officer training and you went, yeah, then go right now to the District 53 website and make sure you sign up, because hopefully it's going to fill up really quick. We'll see. Maybe it'll just be, these 24 odd squares hanging out together. But hopefully we'll have 80 people and it'll be a sellout crowd. So if you're interested, registration for these sessions that are already determined are online already. So you can go do that anytime. What does TLI stand for? Is it Toastmasters Leadership Institute?
You got it.
Okay, the T is Toastmasters. That seemed a little too on the nose.
Bonus question. What is TLE? What's the E?
Education?
Close.
Exchange experience.
The networking. See, I'm a post-pandemic Toastmaster, so this is fun. I'm glad we're getting back to this. All right, so now diving in a little more. Our 3-hour agenda for our COT. If it's a COT, it's online. So first, we're going to jump right in with the club officer training. And what I really, really love with what Jackie put together is she is giving you all a specific thing to focus on. So there are all of these, and I'm assuming this was this shared with them, Jackie, already?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, but it will be. And you will have links to all of the, and I don't think mine are hyperlinked right now, but this links to the full database of all of the TI, which stands for Toastmasters International. So all of the TI training materials. So there's like handbooks for sessions, there's PowerPoints, there's stuff for you to build off of. Now I will say it's quite dry, but remember Toastmasters is international. It's in the name. It is all around the world. They need to build things that are going to be useful here in the US, in Uganda, in the Bahamas, in Europe, all over the world. So it has to really get to like the most important content, like the meat of what people need to know. But we want to put our District 53 culture and flair and enthusiasm on it. So just because you see those boring white slides, does that mean you have to stick with them that way? The content should be your guide, but you can make it your own to some degree based on your own personal experience.
Keep branding though.
What was that?
Keep it branded though.
Yes, branding is important. So make sure you've got the TI branding. Those you can when you download the PowerPoints, you can just duplicate slides and use that. Or if you're going to do your own, there is like a base Toastmasters PowerPoint template that you can download. I don't remember where I found it. I Googled it.
It's in the resources.
I'm sure it is.
They've got a whole branded section.
Yes. Yeah. And typically I just do Toastmasters branded PowerPoint template or something like that. And it gets me where I need to go. But yeah, we can also make sure that you guys get that as well. So that you can build off of it if you need it, if you don't already have it. And again, this emphasis on these different things. So like VPPRs, promoting club events, the VPM, being accountable for making sure that open houses happen, for leading the project of open houses, not single-handedly doing open houses. It should be a team thing. And there's about 17 Pathways projects that they can do for organizing events or working with a team. It could be an HPL, whatever they want it to be. But bring that specific focus to it, because now you're going to get more specific wisdom that you can draw out of your veteran members. And you're also giving your new members a little bit more of a focus of like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff you can do, but here's something that has proven time and again to be helpful. Any additional thoughts on that, Jackie, while I figure out what a cat's problem is? Okay.
Oh, hey, just lost power again. No, that's Stephanie pretty much hit it, that the idea is, yes, for club officer training, it is crucial that, of course, each officer has their own breakout session. And whether they're newbies or seasoned folks like all of us, we all could use the refresher on what the core responsibilities are, the core duties are, and also what is a primary focus for each role. Because we do want to try to, shake it up a little bit for the folks if this is not their first, second, third rodeo, but maybe their 38th rodeo. We want to make sure that we're all continuously learning. Does that make sense, everybody?
Yeah, cool.
Seeing some nods. Okay, good.
And then for the Sergeant at Arms, one thing I'm going to throw out there, for I don't think there's very many, and maybe that's why it hasn't come up. But for our virtual clubs, of which maybe there's few, but the Sergeant at Arms, their role is kind of like, eh. So if you guys have thoughts or people share thoughts, I mean, that would be an interesting project to come up with kind of a guide, a role guide for a Sergeant at Arms at a virtual only club. But that's a side thing.
And actually, and another side thing for that is Sergeant at Arms / maybe technology person for not only online but hybrid clubs. That could be its own path at this point.
Yes, absolutely. All right. So then in the middle is going to be our keynote, which is on the club success plan. Why, not Jeff, are we emphasizing? I know Jeff knows. Why are we emphasizing the club success plan? Not a trio person. David, all right, go ahead. Yeah.
Because it's required that if you don't even get it, you can be considered to be distinguished. So by September 30th, if you're not in, kiss that number goodbye. Whatever you can get 10 and not get anything. So sucks, but it is what it is, right?
I'm going to challenge you on that one, David. I'm stepping in, Stephanie. Tag
You
teaming
could
in.
have it.
No,
Just September
no,
30th is a little early.
Yeah, so I think that the club success plan, it's important, and it's not just because, to help people, get a little point. It's also to help make sure that clubs are aligned. How many of us we start our Toastmasters years with all the ideas. Oh my God, so many ideas. It's fantastic. It's awesome. And then by the time October rolls around, all the ideas are kind of over there because you're busy just trying to keep up with all the things you have to do. And having a club success plan gets all 7 officers aligned with, no matter how many bright and shiny squirrel things happen, these 3 things we're doing. And it gives accountability. So I think making the CSP required for distinguished, I'm actually excited about it. And yeah, this is change management. It's gonna take people time to learn it, live it, love it, and that's okay. That's why we're here.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Is anyone here, and it's totally okay to be the only person in the room to raise your hand, is anyone unaware that the DCP points or requirements are changing slightly for next year? Does anyone need a refresher on that? I'm not sure. Donna, is that like I didn't know? I wasn't sure how to interpret that. You didn't know. Okay, so they're changing just a scooch. So before the pandemic, you had to have charter strength of 20 members or a net growth of 5 to be eligible for distinguished. After the pandemic, I think very appropriately, they changed that number to a net growth of 3. So now it's going to be staged a little bit. And for those of you that are visual learners, I'm going to try to do this as fast as I can. But there's going to be a new 4th level, which is very exciting. So for our very robust clubs, our 10 out of 10 clubs, there's a new Smedley distinguished that's coming up. Now I know I stole a screenshot of this. I don't know if someone's faster than me. Oh, got it. All right. Screen share. There we go. So we've got, for distinguished, you have to have what it's been, right? So net growth of 3 or 20 members, 5 DCP points. Select distinguished, it goes up to 5. So you have to have a select, like an elevated level of membership growth. I think that's appropriate. And then your 7 points. President's distinguished, you got to be a charter strength. You got to get it up there and be at the 20 that really makes a healthy, sustainable club. And then the 9 points that it's always been. And then that new level is the Smedley Distinguished, which is 25 members and all 10 points. So I think this is, not everyone's going to love it. But I think this is a really good way to balance pushing clubs to new heights, getting back to some pre-pandemic strength, while also acknowledging the fact that there is a lot of, the world changed drastically during the pandemic. The way that our time is being leached out of us is just insane. And we don't realize it because we went through these little, hermitage things in our homes. And then we came out of it. None of that virtual stuff went away that we were doing. And then we also had all the in-person stuff come back. So I think they're acknowledging, that things are hard, but also pushing for growth. The other piece to this is you do have to, by September 30th, submit a club success plan. So even if you are a super successful club that doesn't do a club success plan, you would not be eligible for distinguished if you don't get it in by September 30th. Alpana.
So as an area director, I've often been asked the question that what do the clubs get for achieving any of these categories? I mean, tangible gain or benefit.
The tangible thing is you get a ribbon on your banner. And it's my answer, there's a lot of very knowledgeable people in the room that could also answer this question, but I think the biggest thing is they've been doing this for over 100 years. They know what helps make a club successful and fun and gain momentum and really help its members. And the things that stand out to them over years and years of experience are having a solid member base, making sure you're growing, you're getting new members, engaging with the educational curriculum, and then also like maintaining your basic membership stuff that you need to do. Like you need to, those last what is it, through the 3 points for like club officers trained, submitting dues on time, your club officer list on time. Those are just basic administrative things that you're part of a large organization. Part of paying your dues is to make sure you're checking those boxes. But they have found that members, a solid member base where everyone's sharing the experience, sharing the weight of running the club, along with engagement with the educational program is what helps a club succeed. So I don't know. Do you need not you, Alpana, but do the clubs need like a reward? Do they need a trophy, or do they need at some point we have to be self-motivated, I think, to want to help our club succeed. I don't know if anyone else has any better thoughts. John?
Thanks for saying that self-motivated piece, Stephanie. That's just so, not to be terribly ethereal about this, but if a club achieves a distinguished level, chances are the majority of the club members have gotten during the program year what they came to attain and came to achieve. When we engage in a pathway, what are we looking to do? What are we looking to accomplish in life or gain a skill in? So if we actually deliver on that promise, if the club delivers on the promise that Joe Smith said on day one of the program year, I really want to be better at X, Y, and Z, and he or she works the program, attains the levels, finishes the path, whatever it might be, sure, that rolls up to distinguished club program points. Very good. It also delivers the promise of what Toastmasters is all about. So there's what I'm planning to put into my session that I'm doing for division directors is roll back a little bit from we need points to make the district look good. Yes, it's good. It's good to perform. I don't argue that. But let's build that out of program satisfaction and really emphasize on driving program in the clubs and have the rest follow.
I love that. And Jeff, I see that you've got your hand raised. I just want to put out there, Liz, I know you're here. I'm not speaking for you. I'm not speaking for Mohan. I'm not speaking for Betty Ann. I'm just speaking for myself. For me as a district officer, it's not about the district getting kudos. We get kudos when our clubs achieve their mission. And that, anyway, sorry, I got on a soapbox. Jeff, then Norm.
Thanks, Jackie and Stephanie. I want to echo what's been said in maybe a slightly different way. I usually ask people, why are you a club officer? And besides I don't know what I stepped into and I forgot to step back when everyone else did. One of our tasks as being a club officer, a leader in our club, is to ensure that the club's mission is fulfilled. And the short version of that is to create an environment, a safe, positive environment where all of our members can grow in ways that they didn't possibly imagine they could grow before. The DCP is not just goals to achieve, but it represents a framework, a set of practices that, as John indicated, over time, and Stephanie indicated over time, have shown that these are the things that clubs that help their members meet their goals do. Education goals are achieved, new members are brought in, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So rather than pitching this as something that our club has to do, and hence we now need to require members. And the last thing I want to say to a member is, you need to complete a level 1 so we can be distinguished. No. It's really more about, hey, how can we help you complete a level 1? And by doing that time and time again, DCP is achieved because we managed the goals, but done that by helping our members achieve them. That's kind of the short answer. I don't think it answers Alpana's question of what else do we get. For me, the getting is more about the satisfaction of seeing our members become better than they were at the beginning of the year.
So I do want to mention this, that you are preaching to the choir here. Not me personally, like Stephanie said, who is asking that question. And most often it's the corporate clubs who ask this question. Sure. Because their membership is paid by their companies. And they think that Toastmasters is something that they do above and beyond their regular day job. And so if there's no WIFM factor, like what's in it for me, they don't get it. And it's very tough to explain it to them.
Yeah, it's funny. Liz just put in there that DCP can be equated to key performance indicators or KPIs that represent a higher level of performance. And I often struggle with corporate clubs that view Toastmasters as something that they're doing for their company, as opposed to something that they're doing for themselves as a human being that just happens to help them be better at the job that they do for their company. That's why their companies are supporting it. I guess, it's something to talk about, and I don't want to take this too far off track here because we're going to run out of time. But targeting your response to the benefits that people will receive by helping their members reach their goals and have the club reach their goals at the same time is really what the DCP should be all about and how we should be explaining it.
And that said, frankly, the first club in District 53 that becomes smelly distinguished, that'll just be cool.
Challenge accepted.
David, I see your hands raised, but Norm, you had your hand raised before. I just want to make sure that if you still want to share, that you have the opportunity.
Yeah, I took my hand down only because this discussion's gone on for a while, and I'm not sure this is the core intent of this meeting, but I just want to mention the morbidity side of this that nobody has brought up. If you like Toastmasters, if you go to meetings, if you enjoy it, if you feel you're learning from it, then why wouldn't you want your club to be successful? DCP is the quality measurement tool that, as several people have mentioned, over more than 100 years, Toastmasters International has figured out these are the factors that indicate the quality of a club and the club's success. History shows us that if you don't pay attention to that, whether it's because you're not looking at it or nobody cares or whatever, you're going to evaporate. With very few exceptions, if a club keeps failing to meet DCP goals, they're not going to survive. So if you enjoy going to your club meetings, if you enjoy the camaraderie, if you enjoy the learning, then you really ought to have an objective to make sure your club is successful, and that you do that by being successful with the program yourself.
Yeah, Rich Kuchar years ago looked at the statistics, and clubs that are not distinguished, actually he said it the other way around. Clubs that are distinguished will be there to survive another year.
And David, if you want to bring the last comment for this part of the conversation.
I think it comes down to your members are happy, then everything will fall. Jackie put in there that, the district is here for the clubs, but the clubs are here for the member. If you look at the structure, member is king, right? We're at the top. Everyone here is a member. If you have goals and people get their goals, then everything will fall in place. Clubs shouldn't be hammering the DCP from the top. It should be, how can you, Jackie, get your goal? Or how can you, Paul, get your goal? What do you need to do for this year? And once they get their goal, everything falls into place. So if we key on the member and the members have goals, then they've got good mentorship and they're getting what they need, and they've got new goals every year, because once you fix them, you want to do more of them, then we'll all do fine. So
excellent. Thank you. All right. And now I hate to cut off conversation, but we don't have that much time left. And Stephanie, I know you still have things that you want us to talk about.
Yeah, and the one thing I'll add as I start to share my screen again here is just I do think the thing that sounds like it's coming up again and again for clubs, and our challenge as Awaken Guides going into these sessions is it feels like there is a gap between the club members' goals and the systems that Toastmasters has provided. And I'm not sure how to bridge that gap. Like I personally have never had a problem with pathways, which is why I always like get on a soapbox and help with it because for me it works. For other people, it doesn't connect. So we have to continue to bridge that gap between like, here is your goal, here's what Toastmasters has found helps people like you achieve that goal. What helps clubs like you have successful members. So it's that's my challenge to all of you is how do we make that connection? And then the one final thing I'll say is I mean, our world is really busy and I think some people are expecting that it's just going to get handed to them like Candy Crush on their phone. But the candy is not just going to show up. You do have to go out and get it. So I think there's a smidge of why isn't it just happening? We gotta bridge the gap. All right, so the elective sessions. I also love the way Jackie set these up too. So we've got some really just key high level topics that have a lot of space for people to bring their own expertise and experience to. But I like how she's emphasizing certain ones for certain roles. It does not mean that VPEs all have to show up to the speech contest or VPPRs all have to show up to marketing. And if you're not a VPR, you can't come to the marketing one. The idea is that we're going to kind of nudge them in the direction of maybe not just their interest, but also what's going to help continue the conversation that they had in their officer roles meeting. And then obviously, if they're not on this list, if they're one of the more, we'll say specific, maybe is a nice way of, the secretary, treasurer, and sergeant at arms tend to have they have a narrower lane of focus. So they don't, they're not getting into this stuff, but what can they help support? I think a sergeant at arms helps supporting speech contests would be a good thing. But yeah, so those are the elective sessions. So be thinking about what would you like to talk about? What on this list excites you? What on this list do you have unique experience or wisdom that you could bring to? So that's our COTs and also really the core of the core 3 parts of every single session, no matter how it's set up. So the corporate or afternoon, whatever we end up deciding to call it, is the same thing. It's just split up into 3 days. So pretty straightforward there. And then, all right, so the TLI is 8 to 4, right, Jackie?
Correct. And before you ask, yes, there will be breakfast and lunch provided.
Yes. So this is a very similar experience. The added value that we are offering to people that show up to it is that connection and lunch, which, I mean, who's going to turn down lunch?
And there is one additional TLI only session, then that's the first one.
Yeah.
And I kind of envisioned this one as a panel discussion. One of the things that I know I struggled with was how to stay a member, an active member, when I was serving as a club officer, let alone as a district officer. My own growth stalled in terms of my Toastmasters experience because, yes, I was serving as a leader, but I was not delivering any speeches, etc. So it's really important that our members be members first. And so that's why this first session is going to be a discussion about how you, yes, you, club officer, can still be an active Toast member. Member? Toastmaster. Wow.
Toastmasters member. Yeah.
Toastmasters member. Toast member.
Cool. All right. And then I'm going to switch my screen share real quick to show you guys this really awesome. I found that I don't know if it was Patty that made them, but I know it was during her tenure that they were provided. The club officer checklists were super helpful. And I know I have it somewhere. In district, I was so ready, you guys. In District 42, I can find it again. somebody made, oh no, wait, I did have it ready. Here we go. Somebody made like these next level, it was their DTM project. They are from Fish Creek Bravehearts, and her name is Rayanne Rodier, and I want to make sure as we steal her DTM project, we give her credit. I'm going to check with her too. But she created these club officer checklists that I love. So it has key responsibilities along with pathways projects that you can apply, speaking of being a Toastmaster, while also serving as a club officer role. It has a year ahead checklist. So, your first 60 days, July to August, next 120 days, next 180 days. And these may need a little bit of tweaking because they are for D42 still the way they're set up. So we'll look at them. But it has, your checklist broken up. So like we were talking about, what's the next thing I do when I leave the meeting? Okay, I have this huge list of responsibilities, but where do I start? This gives them a place to start. And then it also gives them some ideas for training sessions that they could offer at a club meeting and the pathways projects that go along with it, as well as, areas of responsibility from that club officer about towards the DCP, the Distinguished Club Program. And so there are tabs for I didn't have this one zoomed in, but every single club officer role. And my favorite part of the work that's already done with this is the pathways projects that are laid out so that we can encourage our club members to recognize because why are we officers? So that we can work on because we love our club and we want to see it succeed and grow, but also so we can work on our leadership skills. So use these things should piggyback on top of each other. So those will be something that we're going to continue to build off of. I'm definitely going to reference the checklist that Patty had created or had someone else create, so that we can marry the two together and help our officers just feel like they're armed with the things they need to succeed. So that is, believe, the overview. So now we are getting low on time. Oh, Dee, go for it.
Speaking of building on, I just wanted to put a quick plug. Our sister, soon to be joining us, District 65, is chartering a new advanced club. It is a speech prep club that they are getting ready to charter. The club is meeting next on Sunday at 7 p.m. I'm going to drop the information in the chat. Please share the information with any of your Toastmaster members that are interested in contest prep. They've been meeting the last couple of weeks. They've had actually some great speakers, and I think that it definitely is something that, especially since we're going to be joining, I don't have to straddle two districts anymore. But
You're welcome.
Definitely added value. Thank you. I'm glad to be officially one. But I included it in the chat. So
Perfect.
Thank you.
I love it. Yeah, I love when we call attention to our advanced clubs as well. All right. So I have 3 kind of questions that I wanted to cover. We don't have a whole lot of time left, or open-ended questions. The first thing, I wanted to hear from any first-timers. Do you guys have any questions? So just got a lot of information. When something's brand new, it's hard not to get fire hosed. So for people who have never done training before, are there any gaps? Do you have any questions remaining in this moment that you can think of? There's a lot of wisdom in this room. Anything? Oh, look at how good of a job we did, Jackie. All right, so now how about from our I wanted to give them the floor first, but how about from our experienced members? So like Patty already brought up like a good question, a good point. Do any of experienced members from your experience, or do you have any questions about details that you're not, that you still want to know? Jackie?
I have one. How do we sign up for which sessions we want to train?
Oh, that's coming. It's coming.
I'm so eager. Okay, I'll wait.
I'm gonna have here. Well, see, now people are gonna potentially split their focus, but I will put the link in the chat. So I used Google Forms because that's the one that I had access to without bothering Norm. I know he's got a lot on his plate. Also, I was kind of last minute putting it together. So if you can't access the Google form, let me know. I can like send you an email with the questions. There's two parts to this. The first part is a survey because we would like to know if this was helpful, and I definitely want to know if this is helpful. I am asking for your critical feedback, so please let me know. What should be added, what was extraneous, whatever. But then the second page, after you get through the feedback part, is asking about what dates you're available and what you're interested in. And then I'm going to start to kind of compile that together into a spreadsheet that I will send out to all of you guys also through Google Sheets. So that's available. But our experience, I see everybody's starting to. All right. So for our experienced members, are there any gaps, questions, or we could jump to the third part, which was just thoughts, insights, or ideas off of all of it? Oh, I remembered a really important thing I need to talk about though. But first, does anyone else have anything? Oh, wow, we were so thorough. How many division directors are with us in the meeting? I don't know who they all are this year. I know I handed the baton to Doug. Sharon, are you a division director?
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Awesome.
Division B. Oh, Betty Ann has raised her hand.
Yes, Betty Ann. What you got?
But go ahead and let Sharon go first, please.
Oh, I think she was just waving her hand that she's a division director.
And my video is so bad. I've been trying to save bandwidth. I appreciate it. For everyone that's here in this training, and it's wonderful to see everybody here, and especially John Hogan. Good to see you back here in the fold. It's been so long. Remember the member. Everyone here, whether you've been here for 38 years or you've been here for 38 minutes, you're a member. You believed in the value of Toastmasters. Share that compassion, share that value, let people know what it means for validation and the good health of the club that you belong to. And that goes without saying. Our district is so within 10 clubs of being distinguished and hitting the world stage. And we never talked about that with the members. All we talked about was embracing the members and making them feel important. People used to complain, I'm going to say in the old days, oh my God, they're a new member and then they're the president. Oh, that's so terrible. That's amazing. Embrace it. Hug those people. Let them know that they joined because it was a fabulous organization and now they feel the need to help the club move forward in a cohesive, healthy club environment. So applaud them. Find out who those first timers are when you're in your sessions. And do what you have learned so far from your previous members of the club. But embrace them. Give them credit where credit is due for signing on and assuring them without fail that the division directors and the area directors and the district senior team is behind them 100% and will walk them through any need that they have. So please treat them like a member, give them a hug, let them know how much they're appreciated. Let them know that it may seem daunting, but it's not, because you've been there and you can share your help and confidence with them. And that is really the crux of all of what club officer training is. The slides say you have to be here, you have to do there, but there's the intricacies that go behind it. But how do I do that? And making sure that that message is addressed. We've got Paul Harvath here who did that with 6 clubs a couple of years ago. Well, last year. And it was monumental. Embrace those members that have taken on these roles and assure them with confidence and dedication and pure commitment to your Toastmasters promise that you will support them any way that is needed. And that, my friends, will get you distinguished next year as well.
Thank you
thank you for
so
that,
much,
Jen.
Betty Ann. Thank you. That was
Appreciate
truly
it.
lovely and very heartfelt. And thank you very much.
Well, and Jackie, kudos to you and your team. Anything that anybody can do, it's not a task.
Thank you. But no kudos yet because we're not done yet because
Okay.
Stephanie has more.
Go more. Go. I'm off. I'm roasting corn and salsa and all kinds of stuff. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm getting the sense that nobody has any like glaring questions. If you do, if you think of any, feel free to email myself or Jackie, and we can find an answer, make one up, or figure out what the best answer is going to be. So I have 3 things to wrap up. But first, like quick things. But first, David.
I'm looking at your form. I have 2 questions for you.
Okay.
So when you're saying excited versus willing,
Yes.
is the willing, does it include the exciting, or is that alternate?
It's kind of alternate. So I was asking, we'll see where everyone's at, but there's like I'll do a sergeant at arms training, but I'm not going to be excited about. I'll do a VPPR, but it's like that. I feel like there's people that are better at it than I would be. I can do a decent job, but I would rather someone else do it. I love doing the president one. I like having that conversation. I know Paul's probably going to say, I love doing VPE, and also like, maybe I'll do treasurer, So I'm looking for what are you excited about doing? Because I'd like to put you there if we can. And then what are you willing to do if we're in a pickle and we need to stick you somewhere? And then the one question that isn't on there is what won't you do? But I'm assuming that that's covered. I gave you 2 options. So if you didn't, whatever you don't check, I'm going to assume you just flat out refuse.
And you're missing one of the dates for the corporate one.
Actually, the middle one is the going to be the keynote, and that rolls into my 3 quick things. So the first one, I just want to remind everybody, July 7th, if you can help us spread the word about that first timers extra hour. So if you have a brand new officer that you're talking to and they're like, oh my gosh, tell them about that. It's already available on the District 53 website to sign up for. And of course, D, and anyone from outside the districts, welcome as well. And then do the survey, which it seems like everyone's already doing. And then the final thing with the club success plan, which is why that middle date isn't on there. The middle corporate/afternoon date is going to be the club success plan. We are looking at seeing if we can maybe get like our regional advisor to come in and do it. Jackie said she was fire. So she, that one, I'm not, we're still figuring out who's going to keynote for those. The one thing I do want to let you all know that we're going to do with the club success plan is we really want to make sure that people, there's the module from TI and it has some like scenario discussions. I would really prefer, and Jackie agreed, she let me get on my soapbox about it. What we really want to do is have the clubs start to fill in boxes on their club success plan. So basically start the homework while they're still in class. So when they go back to their executive committee team, they can compare notes. They have discussion starters. They remembered the things that they got like, oh yeah, or excited about, that motivation that they had when they were in the moment. Let's use that energy and capture it rather than talking about a hypothetical what if that may or may not apply. Right. We want to get them started. And those are my 3 things.
Exactly.
So, yeah, and I do have the question on there. If you're interested in being a keynote presenter, if you say yes, I might hit you up about the corporate one. But we're still kind of figuring out. We're looking for a like an outside the district influence if we could. And thank you all. Back to Jackie. I'm done. Take it away for the last 3 minutes.
Thank you. Thanks to Hotspot and my IT director husband saying, don't worry, I got you. So, Stephanie, thank you. Everybody here, thank you. We are all really excited about training this year. We are excited to get our members not just motivated, but really give them the tools that they need so they can take that motivation and put it into action. Just like Stephanie's idea to leverage the club success plan time to help members actually get started with it, because this is going to be new for a lot of them. So this way it'll take some of the it'll demystify the process. It'll take some of the fear away and let them know, hey, it's okay. We gotcha. Before we